let's learn how to ladder stitch an opening closed. Now, I'm doing this for, say, a bag or something, but this is used on clothing, it's used on pillows, and all kinds of fun little things to close an opening invisibly. So, like, if I'm doing a bag and I don't want to hand stitch, I will hold it like this, and I will top stitch like 1/8 of an inch from the folded edge here. And that's fine, but sometimes you can see your threads through and it just doesn't look seamless. So that's why you would do a ladder stitch if you choose. And I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to doing this, so I don't often do ladder stitches, but I do know how. I'm just lazy. So we've got our opening here. I have, here's our seam allowance. I've pressed it. It won't always be pressed. And sometimes if you're making a pillow, it's going to be pushed. It's going to want to push itself out like this, you know, a little bit. I highly suggest that we put some markings here just to help us out. So I'm going to grab my chalk. And you can mark the actual seam allowance. Now this is pressed, so I've got a crease, but I could mark the actual seam allowance all the way to that sewn, the stitch line, okay? I can mark all that on both sides if I want. And you could measure this. I'm not measuring it, but you can totally measure it beforehand. And so now we can see our stitch line. Additionally, we can mark how far apart we want our stitches to be. We want them to be consistent. So 1/4 of an inch is probably the widest I would go. I would probably do something more like 1/8 of an inch. You want them kind of close together. But for this, I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just doing a line every 1/4 of an inch or so on the inside of the seam allowance. Okay, this is, you do not have to make these markings. I'm just doing this so that you can see a little bit better. But if you are struggling with keeping things even, by all means, get it marked. Okay, and you probably can't see these markings very well. They're just not like a bright pink, but that's okay. They're there. Okay, so I've got them and they're evenly spaced and they're right across from each other. So I've got my markings there and I'm going to stay within that seam allowance marking or slightly inside because I don't want my threads showing. First and foremost, in regards to threads, you must use matching thread. I am not. I have denim here and this is a yellow thread. This is an effort to help you see better. I don't know how well it will work, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to come from the inside of the opening to underneath this stitch line here. And I'm just going to go like 1 stitch in right through the stitch line, right through the seam allowance. There we go. And pull it through. All right, this will hide your beginning tail. So you see I have no tail here. All right, so it depends on how you, if you're left-handed or right-handed. With me being right-handed, I'm going to start from the right-hand side and then go left. If you're left-handed, you might want to start from the left-hand side, just whatever's comfortable for you. Okay, and I'm just pulling the seam allowance out a little bit so I can get a better sense of this. So I'm coming down one marking and up the next. Not pulling the thread tight. Okay, and then I'm coming down to the other side, matching the markings, going down and up in one motion to the next marking. So you're going to go back and forth from right to left or left to right over and over again. And as you go, you can see why it's called a ladder stitch, right? We could see that ladder going up those rungs, kind of. There are other videos online that show the exact same thing that I'm showing here. If this one isn't clear enough, just Google how to ladder stitch. And there are so many out there that are so helpful. My next stitch, I'm at the very top, and I'm going to come up through the stitch line there. And that's what we've got. Okay, so if we look at this closely, we can see, whoops, Trying to get my seam allowances out of the way there. We can see our ladder. Now we're going to take our thread and we're just going to gently pull it. It is going to pull those threads and close that opening. There we go. And you can see there's not a lot. There might be little things peeking through here and there. It happens. Don't worry about it. All right, now what I'm going to do is I still have to tie off this at this end. I'm going to come back into some of the stitches that I just made, just like this. And there are other ways to close this. Everybody does something different. Just a couple stitches. Just like this. Bring it through, and then I'm going to knot it a couple of times. Is fine. Give it a good knot. And again, if you have matching thread, this is going to help quite a bit. I do not. So now I'm going to bring it through a little sliver of the opening and out one of the sides, just like this. You see it just totally out one of the sides, just like that. I'm going to pull it tight, and then I'm going to snip it as close there, and then I'm going to pull that there. And now we've got a hidden knot there as well. And again, if you're using matching thread, like if I was using a navy blue thread, you wouldn't see anything. But even with using a yellow thread, you can barely see my stitch line. And it's tight, and it looks really nice. And that is how you complete a ladder stitch.